Well, hello there, and welcome to Volume 9, Part 2 of Snowbound Blood. Apparently, according to Badger, this route will make me feel, like primal rage if I hate capitalism very much, which I do. So, I hope I don't, have a panic attack in the middle of it or something. I don't fucking know. I probably won't. Cinare Montor. A long time ago, you could have walked through the trees outside of here like she does. A past self would have visited the forest and city she walks on every case, and maybe she would end up in some faraway land reminiscent of the lives of your ancestors lived in kingdoms with small towns and little hives. You often wonder if you would have been the same person in those times. Would you work the same profession? Would grieving trolls show up at your doorstep begging for you to save them time and time again? There is dirt on her face when you open the door, mud on her boots. They say that when the trees died in Stronghold 21, they died almost all at once. There was a diffusive effect from the pollution in the waterways that worked its way into the rain, and when it came down it scorched the dirt in the city. History books will tell you that in the span of less than half a sweep, a chemical manufacturer generated enough waste to raise 70% of the plant life in the stronghold to the ground. They would pay trolls to replace the dead trees every season, sweep after sweep, just dig out the rot and make it new again, until all that was left was a smattering of plastic and polymers. The back of her coat is covered in soot, like she has been riding through coal mines, or through the streets just outside. There were times, they say, when the cold wouldn't last forever, and the suns could even be pleasant things. Trolls lived simple lives back then, politicking, jockeying for power over a vigorous populace. But her brow is tense now, and she wears that pseudo-stoic face that she borrows when her heart has had enough, when she is begging it to hold itself together. You have seen that face so many times. I need you. I know. Every damn time. Pardon? She pulls herself out from under the hood. The truck she's working on is new, or rather new to her, seeing as she found it wrecked in an old parking lot about 40 expanses from here. It's nothing. Wrong wrench. And back under she goes. She reaches her arm out to the side, dropping the offending spanner onto what is effectively a surgical tray on wheels. Without looking, she digs through the disorganised pile of tools there to find a replacement. So did you just come here to watch me work? I mean, not that that's a problem, obviously. I really like how the sprites interact with the background in this one. Whoever did this did a really good job. She grunts with exertion, clearly putting the correct wrench to good use. But lately, kinda seems like your time is in high demand. I was starting to worry if I had the chops to compete for it. I'm sorry you felt that way. Well, we're all sorry for something. I'm hoping you're here with good news at least. I could really use a pick-me-up. Did something happen? No, but I have a feeling something is about to. And you know, your phone call has a lot to do with that feeling. Are you implying I only give you bad news? I'm implying that you haven't contacted me in over a blink, and I'm wondering what the special occasion is. We've had this conversation before, I think. If you're upset with me, you're welcome to say so in plain words. Otherwise, I won't be able to address your concerns. You know, for someone who spent sweeps in the mountain mastering the senses, you can be incredibly dense. It seems like I'm being punished for reaching out to you. I wonder what this is all about. Can you see why that may cause a person to react poorly? She actually stops working this time, her arms span to the sides of the truck. I was kidding, but I think I have a right to be upset if I want to be. She turns around, her brow is arched, and she's standing with that half-cocked pose she does that may well be a dare. Are we playing as mshiri here? I know. You do. She smirks. Damn right I do. No more cancelled dates, alright? Whatever's going on, you gotta let me in. You nod. When she holds her arms open, you fall into them as quickly as you can. I'm really glad to see you. Oh yeah, Badger told me about, cinare and mshiri being mate sprits or something? I am sorry, by the way. I meant to call you sooner. Don't worry about it. I'm not in the mood to play that card anymore. You're lucky you're so cute. And dangerous. Of course. Did it even need to be said? She lets you go with a kiss. She won't hold a grudge against you, but you still feel a little guilty, especially since you came here at Cecily's request. Oh, we are playing as mshiri. Why did you come here again? Recall, cinare Montor. Your recall ability fails. Only Cecily can use this ability. That's a bit embarrassing, but no need to worry. You have your ways. Cinare Montor is one hell of a mechanic. She has connections all over Repeton's less reputable circles outside the city, though not because she's disreputable herself. Rather, she just wouldn't be caught dead in the stronghold these days. She hates corporate, and with good reason. Despite this, her past mixed with her present makes her the perfect cocktail of information related to the corporate-owned trucking business. From what she's told you, she's got eyes on personnel, distributors and their products, schedules, and most importantly, route data, the kind of information Cecily needs to follow up on her tips from the awards ceremony. Cinare also happens to be your matesprit who doesn't appreciate that you've been blowing her off for Repeton's star regulator. She wears her disappointment on her face in several ways, even through a smile. She's trying to be pleasant for your date. You scold yourself a bit for neglecting her as much as you have been. It's not fair of you to keep letting yourself get caught up in Cecily's messes. Cinare has given you every opportunity to show her you're serious about being with her. You think it's time her patience paid its dividends. But what about the case? Yes, and what about it? It's only been at the centre of your attention since Cecily came bursting through your door half dead and paranoid. Again. As Cinare was polite enough to remind you, you've had to cancel your recent dates to juggle her burglary work with your work. You agreed to do it, sure, but only because she was spinning out on her own. Cecily is brilliant. Usually. You love her immensely, but she really does seem to think she can operate alone. This threat she's facing now might just be too much for her to handle, as predictable as she can be. Maybe you should go back. There are some contacts you could pull for her. Maybe find her a few more teammates she can tolerate so she doesn't have to go careening into another depressive nosedive. But what about Cinare? Ah, yeah. Focus, mshiri. Now is not the time. Cecily can wait. If the topic of the case comes up organically, you'll ask Cinare about the route data like she asked you to. Until then, your attention will be on your matesprit. These moments are supposed to be what life is all about, after all. Cinare's garage is a study in heuristics. It presents an easy way to form an opinion about who she is. Messy floors, messy tables, walls covered in old calendars, posters with cars that feature a particular aesthetic more befitting of 10 sweeps ago. It's a life of displacement, disordered. But if you take the time to look a little deeper, you start to notice a pattern in the chaos, and under that you start to see that it was never really a mess at all. It's a self-portrait. See, Cinare lives alone in the middle of nowhere. It's not that she can't keep up, but it's that she has no one to impress anymore but herself. And that works for her, and it works for you even more. You love Cecily, but she demands a lot from you, and she demands that you hide a lot of yourself. She tends to rely on her heuristics. Just as she chose to judge Cinare on appearances alone, she's taken to deciding who you are these days based on personal convenience. It's easier that way for most of your clients, you suppose. But that was never really you, was it? You know, I was almost hoping to see you in your robes today. I wondered if you would have time to change since you came here right after work. Do you not like the leather? What a ridiculous idea, do I not like the leather? You look cool as hell in leather, Shiri. It's more like... Okay, you ever see those videos where a tiny little bark beast tears up a burglar like nobody's business? Some of my clients like them, yes. It's like that, sort of a morbid fascination. I like thinking that I'm the only one who knows what you're actually capable of. Are you hoping I'll snap and chew up my bosses? A maiming or two would be nice if it's not too much to ask. You can feel her grinning, even if you can't see it. She closes the hood of the truck to fiddle with something on the windshield. I'll take it into consideration. I do like entertaining morbid fascinations, after all. Is that why you keep the cop around? Something like that. She can certainly be morbidly fascinating at times. Is that what you're calling it now? Pfft! Does she even know you come out here? You shift a bit. You were hoping to drag this out a bit longer. She does now. What's that supposed to mean? It doesn't have to be now. But at some point she and I were meaning to ask you some things. She lowers her head down slowly. It makes a deep thud when it hits the hood. Is she here somewhere? Did she follow me? Of course not. She turns around to face you, clearly disappointed. I know she can be hard to manage. You won't have to see her. That's not really the problem though, is it? The chick's a mshiri with a capital C. Despite her bizarre choice of words, you want to agree with her. You hate corporate almost as much as she does. You know better than anyone how suffocating that place can be. Remember how you met Cinare. Those days she smoked even more than she does now, if that can be believed. It suited her. She was a big name for a while around the offices, and you even remember sitting in a conference room with her a few times while she worked her way up the corporate ladder. Back then, the most you knew of her was that she seemed nice, if not a bit aggressive, and she always seemed to be chewing on the smoking filter on one of those caustic candy cigarettes. When the time came for you to sit down with her one-on-one, she had just been promoted to a leading position in the fiscal responsibility department. Her office was filled with dim ambient light and the syrupy acrid stench of burnt sugar. She was intoxicating. She must have caught you staring because she flashed you a wry smirk as she asked you to close the door. Don't worry, this is just a formality, she had said. I just wanted to check a couple of numbers with you. You had to resist asking to check hers. But that would come later. Damn, mshiri. You started acting as Cinare's chief source of information about some of the more elusive tidbits around the temp agency, and once or twice you may have slipped in a few personal details, something she never seemed to mind. You told yourself that you weren't looking for a mate sprit, but as monster breaks turned into lunch dates under the guise of business meetings, it became painfully obvious to anyone watching that you were smitten. You couldn't have guessed it from her smoky eyes, but under it all she was burning away. You never asked her the details, but you've heard all about it from second-hand sources. Apparently she had looked into the books of some of her less inclined colleagues and found something sinister. After that there were 3 phone calls. The first ended in a shouting match, the second with vitriol the likes of which the officers had never seen. The third ended when she stormed the office of the executive and had to be escorted from the building by none other than Miss Cecily herself. What I'm worried about this is that... Is this implied that mshiri doesn't like Cecily, really? That's sad. You know, when you found her, she was sitting on the curb with makeup running down her cheeks. Mshiri, you are the only goddamn thing in there worth saving, she told you. You're the only thing here that ever made any fucking sense at all. You asked her what you could do. She asked you to stay with her. So you did. Hello, repeton to better. You snap out of it to find her standing face to face with you. What happened to paying attention? I apologise. I was lost in thought. Her arms are covered in dark stains from her work on the engine, which now seems to be humming with life. When did that happen? She grins at you. You like it? It's incredibly impressive. You reveal more of your technical prowess with every endeavour I witness. I should be so lucky to see a woman like you in action. You want to take it for a spin? She presses a button on a panel attached to the wall. With rusty complaints, the garage door scrapes open. Are we done talking about Cecily? We are until you bring her up again. She makes her way around you and into the driver's seat. The truck's door is there as equally as rusted as the garage. By the sound of it, the adhesive attaching it to the frame is made of craft glue and prayers. Are you sure it's safe? Guess we'll find out. She shifts into first gear and the truck begins to move. Tap, 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 tap. One palm and then the other. Tap, 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 tap. There are thoughts in your head. None of them make any sense. One thing, then the next move. One step at a time. Tap, 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 tap. Brrr. You give up. Your nails dig into your arm. Are you actually here? Are you just dreaming this all up? Is that junior regulator looking at you funny? What are you going to say to him when you get there, when he sees you? Are you still the same as you were before, as when he gave you your sword, your license to kill? Are you still good enough to face him? You pull at your skin. Focus, you can do this. You've been planning for this meeting. Why did she have to die? Miss Yapara, the executive, will see you now. It's time. You step into the elevator. It's been a long while since you took it all the way to the top. You feel like your brain is on fire. There are a number of ways this could go, and it's been hell trying to plan for all the possible contingencies. The executive, Sestro's still living ancestor, doesn't take many meetings these days. The topic must be incredibly important if he's willing to risk you contaminating his room. This may be your last chance to see him, you think. He's barely hanging on. So why are you so scared of him? The elevator slows. When it opens, you are greeted with a dark space lit only by maroon lights from under the panels in the walls. It's small. Its only real purpose is to serve as a transition between the elevator and an airlock, the sterilization chamber. The walls surrounding the airlock are made of glass. From where you stand, backlit against the elevator's interior, you see his bed. At his side, a woman in a lab coat is injecting something into his IV. You step into the room. The elevator doors close behind you, leaving you in near darkness. A trembling arm lifts itself to brush against the doctor's coat. She glances up to meet your eyes, and keys something into a device on the wall near the airlock. When the doors slide open, you step inside quickly. They close behind you, and the chamber shines with deep blue and UV light. The doctor's voice crackles through a speaker in the ceiling. "Arms at your sides, please." You follow the instructions. A pungent spray mists from the nozzles hidden in the walls. When they deactivate, you find yourself slightly damp. "I assume you know how to put on the mask?" A panel slides to the side. Behind is a box of surgical masks. You grab one and slide it over your mouth. Coronavirus Cecily, shush! Shush! No. We're slightly topical, but otherwise, The doctor enters another combination into the wall panel, and some of the air in the room is vacuumed away. As the pressures equalise, the door to the executive's room slides open. Oh, is he sick? Apparently, this is the bastard or something? God, I can't remember. Well, I can remember the last time I was in a hospital looking at someone who was dying. It was like January. Yeah, late December, early January, and this really reminds me of it. You step inside. Every plan you made leaves your head as you approach the bed of the man who bargained away your mate Sprit's life. When he sees you, his ancient face splits into a cracked smile. "Regulator Yapara, I'm glad you could make it." "Roder." The doctor stands at attention. "Sir." "Leave us. But, open the blinds first." She nods. A few quick taps on the keypad and the wall to the left segments and rotates on too many axes to reveal the night sky outside. The room sinks into pale moonlight and indigo. When you look back to her, she is already gone. "Before we begin, thank you for taking time off of Operation Snowbound Blood for this discussion, and thank you for your continued labour on this case despite your reservations. You know how important this is to the heir and Miss Ecrix. Thank you for putting them first." Jeez, it was before they were even hatched. I couldn't hold it against them. "This reminds me, Regulator Yapara. Miss Ecrix provided me with this sweep's reduplication registry, and I again didn't find your name." It would bring an old man great comfort to know his heir will never live in a world without an Yapara by his side. Have you reconsidered contributing?" "You grew up in the ruins my ancestors left, sir. I'm sure you understand my reticence." "Akamu was loyal. He fulfilled his duty." "And I've been too. I've pierced the beating hearts of whoever stood between you and your vision for this world." "Akamu was repaid for his loyalty in blood and loss. He is remembered as a monster. I've begun to fear I'll share that legacy." "May I see it?" The executive is gesturing at your hip at Proserpina. His hand is shaking, with a pulse-measuring cuff on a finger and medical tubes snaking around his arm. His face is worn from eras as Repeton's protector, and yet his eyes always glisten with pride when you are in the room. When you were young, nothing made you more certain you were on the right path in life. Now you're not sure. You gently draw the sword and turn to hand it to him hilt first. He takes it in trembling hands and turns it over, sighing wistfully. "After Caesar's death, zealots destroyed most of his followers' cherished artifacts, but this blade survived. Perhaps the finest of its era. You gave it a new name and a new purpose." He meets your eyes, squinting and determined. "You do not live in his shadow, nor would another live in yours. Regardless, we have business to discuss, don't we, Regulator?" Yes, sir, we do. He hands your sword back to you, then softly sighs, closing his eyes. There is little I have left in this world, Regulator Yopara. The planet I rebuilt has long since been torn apart again. This matter I have asked you to look into, this case. It's time I told you the truth about it. It's time you understood the truth about Operation Snowbound Blood. What a stupid name. Makes me think of if blood could ski or something. Unfortunately, it's not as trivial as it sounds. It's an unmitigated disaster that has led to around 25 deaths or more at this point. I wouldn't put you in such an awkward situation for anything less. Cinare whistles in disbelief. Yeesh, no kidding. And Cecily's gone and fucked it all up, I'm guessing. Well, I wouldn't say that. Well, she seems to be fixated on following the orders of the exact person trying to kill her. Cute, always the pragmatist, John Morrill. She's suffering, and she's doing the best she can to save the other targets. Right, I get it. She's been driving on the highway for a few expanses now. The roads are ramshackle things full of craters and displaced asphalt, so at times the ride feels a bit like a wooden roller coaster. A solitary road sign has labels for Stronghold P3P51, which apparently is still around 223 expanses away. So what is it that you need from me? Recently, a troll was able to rediscover something hidden in Cecily's memory. It was a conversation mentioning the illegal trade of stolen route data for a hijacked truck. She and I thought you might know something about how such data is acquired. Or that one of your clients might. Usually you would have to go through corporate's internal network to find that kind of dirt. Someone who's been in the trucking business for a while would maybe know enough about that system to get in and steal it, though. Do you know anyone like that? Not for a regulator, I don't. Cinare, this really is important. So is my reputation as, you know, not a narc. Besides, I'm sure your little Miss Schlock can sleuth it out on her own. Fucking hell. She pulls in onto an exit. The scenery changes from barren to lush in almost an instant. I understand you hate her. I understand the two of you have had your differences. But this is bigger than that. You're acting like a spoiled wriggler. Yeah, go ahead and tell me what you understand, mshiri. It's becoming pretty fucking obvious that you don't understand anything at all. I understand that you refusing to act here would cost lives. No, your little wage slave lapdog of a Morrill is costing lives. I'm under no obligation to help her. Cinare, please. She drags on her cigarette. Do you even know the kind of shit she does? I know, she does it for good reasons. At least she believes they are good reasons in her heart. You think that justifies anything? If I intend to kill a spider with my truck and I end up ramming it through your hive, do my intentions make that okay? That seems like a faulty analogy. Hardly. You sigh hard. Out the window, dense forest has been working away at the pavement on the sides of the road. The two of you sit in silence for a painful few moments. You can hear the sound of her blowing the smoke from her lungs. I hate to say this, Shiri, but she really sucks for you. You don't respond. It's not like this is the first time this topic has been broached. She reaches out her hand to you. You take it in yours begrudgingly. Remember when we used to do volunteer work? I still check in at the shelter from time to time. You do remember. People corporate would fire, people the city decided couldn't be of use anymore. A lot of them would end up stuck with no food and no home, satelliting the stronghold. After Cinare lost her job, she took it upon themselves to see that none of them went hungry. She would spend hours at this run-down homeless shelter, maybe not even for herself, but for the meditative state it put her in. Well, Cinare's a good person, but we are not immune to propaganda. Cecily's a cop, and Cinare's on the side, she's looking after helpless people that corporate would be chucking away. Cinare's a good person. She would bring you along sometimes. It always struck you how similar it seemed to therapy for her. It struck you even more just how many people there were that had lost everything. You run your thumb over the back of her hand. Some of the people I met there didn't make it. Mythomaniacs started using the place to find fodder for their fight clubs. And corporate just lets it happen because they've got rare blood. If I got put out like that, Cecily would let me get killed. You know that, right? Funny you mention that. She just finished killing a fair amount of murthamaniacs. I heard about this. It was part of the case, right? I lost a couple of clients in that fight. But surely that shows you that Cecily isn't a monster. I mean, sure, but there was something in it for her bosses this time, right? You remember hearing about Cecily's injuries after that fight? She and Necron fought to within an inch of their lives. That approach is needlessly cynical. She doesn't fight for materialism. Yeah, no, I don't doubt that Cecily does some good things, Shiri. That's not what I'm saying, I just... You know how many missing persons reports I filed when the shelter started losing people? And nobody came, not even your girl. She was on other cases, fighting other cults at times. Not to mention the several extraction operations I'm aware of specifically related to Murthamaniac rings and red rooms. Successful ones, or do they go in every time with silk gloves on? Because I know for a fact that extraction protocol states that highbloods are not to be killed outside of self-defense. Kind of defeats the purpose of pulling anyone out, doesn't it? I'm aware of successful extractions. So the cult members they, didn't kill, go out and kidnap someone else instead. Corporate just picks the ones they like to save, and my friends are cool to die, right? Cecily isn't involved in that. She gives you a look. Listen, the point I'm making is not that Cecily is over-sympathetic to the Murthamaniacs or any other freak show band of backwater hooligans you're about to throw my way. The point is that her bosses are. And from the few interaction I've had with the gal, I'd say she's not big on defying orders. Corporate didn't help the people out here when they needed it. So I'm not going to help Corporate, simple as that. The road turns to gravel. You've driven far away from civilization. Maybe you could consider it a favour for me instead. If you help just this once, I would be deeply grateful. I'm scared for her and for everyone involved. She seems to consider that. She runs her fingers along her hand, squeezing gently at times. I'll think about it. For now, I want to show you something. The truck squeaks to a stop in a patch of rough ground off the side of the forest. Follow me. She pulls the key from the ignition, then disappears into the tree line, following a thin, overgrown nature trail. You step out of the truck to follow her. Our entire lives, this whole planet, my empire, has been nothing but a preamble. We exist as scribes of code for a bitter game regulating your power, and it is the only thing worth fighting for. I don't understand. I doubt you would, but know this, and know that there is nothing we can do to avoid fate. You and I are destined for morbid ends. He rasps out a dry cough. Do you know how old I am, Regulator? I don't, sir. I am 144 sweeps old. Nonsense, sir. You don't look a day over 100. He cracks a grin. A pathetic laugh emanates from somewhere in his throat. And the blood, do you know where it comes from? Of course, sir. It comes from the Vivifier. The Animator, she should be called. The Life-Giver. She was a remarkable woman. Zakura was her real name. I mentioned you to her before she died. How is that, sir? She died over 100 sweeps ago. He laughs again. It drags against his vocal cords. And yet the blood you are searching for, the blood you have killed to find, is only 19 sweeps old. You feel a shock in your core. Rains. She has a descendant. Yes, but I am forbidden to touch her. But you've been stealing her blood. Not hers. For 100 sweeps it has been Zakura's blood flowing in my veins. The vial you are searching for is merely the end of a centenaria's long experiment. Which means the Vivifier died less than 10 sweeps ago, Regulator. What, so this whole time you've been leading me on? In essence, yes, it was necessary. Then who is Elsie Rains? Elsie is the beginning of the end for us. She is an exchange, at times a bargaining piece. She is the most important person on the planet. You can't respond. You can only wait for him to continue. Zakura and her partner Thesol came to me in the aftermath of a great suffering, when it seemed no hope remained in the hellscape the Renaissance left behind. And from ruin I became the catalyst of the greatest revolution in history. When the ground was empty of anything worth hoping for, I transmuted the ground into something new. I led by example. As alchemists, we rebuild Repeton from nothing. I was not just a leader regulator, I was a messiah, and they needed me. Oh, shut up. Because without my help, their descendants could never be born. And in return, she gave me her blood, and I lived on. But the time came when I could not stall any longer. And on the day Elsie Rains was born, the vivifier perished. A cloud shifts over the white moon. The room becomes drenched in midnight blue. She left me. What remained of her blood, I survived through her will. This last vial, what is left of her and of me? When you find it, I would like you to give it to my heir. He will be taking my place soon. I have grown so tired of living. Your knees have been locked this whole time. Your head is pounding. Does Sestro know? He doesn't. He knows none of what I have told you. Only that Elsie is of highest priority. I would ask that you keep it that way. You nod. If Sestro knew, how could that benefit him? It would only drown him in guilt. Regulator. Sir? Would you indulge me for a moment? I would like to discuss some thoughts with you. I will take your silence as an invitation. He turns to face the window, just like his descendant. His eyes scan across the great expanses of stars above. In my time on this planet I have known so many people. I have loved many of them. But each life, in each indelible moment I held in my mind as proof of something greater than myself. My reasons to stay alive. Well, I have seen all of them die, and I have forgotten where most of them are buried. I'm sorry, sir. In my younger days I dreamed of space. I used to believe in an eternity above our heads. I would build rockets in my mind. I would see them drifting to worlds greener than this. This great beyond. It was the spirit of progress. It was hope for something better. But the ships I built never returned. Brilliant minds were lost to a cold vacuum. And the only things left of those programs now are brittle memories that serve no one and nothing. Testaments to failure. I am nothing but an anachronism, Cecily. I lingered here, knowing that I was lingering for nothing. I persisted to search for fragments of a time when I was naive. To spend my life waiting for the right moments. But I am realizing now that there was never a right moment for any of it. The planet spins on and more die each day. But your life can still mean something, and that is why I called you here. I meant to wait to see what would come of your investigation, but the things you have found, the players involved, I cannot afford to wait any longer. I need you to do something for me. His eyes break from the window to catch yours. When this case ends, you will find Rains and the descendants of Thesol Vurat, and you will protect them with your life. Refusal of this mission could result in the death of Repeton. And my position as chief regulator will be terminated, yes. This task is strictly off record. Your contacts will be monitored as well. Your hands are shaking like his are. Your thoughts drift to Okius. Do you feel capable of continuing your work? I do, sir. Good, you are dismissed. Send Roder back in when you go, please. You turn to face the airlock, but you can't move. This is so wrong. Everything about this is so wrong. You need to ask him. You can't keep going without knowing. You turn back around to face him. Sir. He looks at you. His eyes tell you he was expecting this. I wanted to ask you about Alina. The two of you stumble out of the woods together. The hike wasn't a long one. Ooh, pretty. But the trail was dense with foliage due to sweeps of disuse. See? What did I tell you? Totally worth it. In front of you is the most natural landscape you have seen in the 8 sweeps of your professional life. It's beautiful. It seems to stretch on forever. I had no idea this place even existed. And so close to the stronghold. How is this here? I'll admit it's a bit of a forced perspective. This cliff just happens to be the perfect spot to view what's left of this place. But if you can tell, it's starting to come back. Not much, but it's a start. I had a feeling you'd like it. It reminds me of my time at the Temple of Mediators. There was a place in the Alpine foothills like this. As you watch, she brings an arm around your shoulder and pulls herself closer to you. Do you miss it? My time with the Mediators, you mean? Your time outside of the city, when you had your whole life ahead of you. The horizon in front of you is... There's a fucking fly near me or something. The horizon in front of you is beginning to blend into the first signs of day. I do. So much. You know, there's a place for us out there. We don't have to stay orbiting the stronghold for the rest of our lives. Cinare. There's so much left to do here. I know, but when it's over, when the case is done maybe. You huff. She notices. I know I haven't been easy to deal with today. I'm sorry for that. I keep letting my personal stuff get in the way. I'm not mad at you for your convictions. If it were up to me, I would never have been involved in this case. But it wasn't up to me. I just want people to stay safe. I need you to be on my side for this. She spends a moment staring out at the canopy of life below. The vapours from the end of her cigarette spiral in the breeze, disappearing into the shattered atmosphere. All right. Ask me anything you need to know. Snare's heard of Noxious. The name sounds familiar. I definitely haven't met the guy personally, but I've heard through the grapevine that he's a pretty tough customer. Targeted harassment, baiting, fraud, all to get unstable folks to walk off the deep end, right? Yes. That's him. Fuck that guy. Agreed. She takes another pull from her cigarette, which is nearing the end of its life. She pulls it from her mouth, puts it out on the side of her boot, then eats the candy-coated filter. I hear a lot about this guy, Ashbringer too. They say he's working with a cop. Scares the shit out of some of my seedier clients. He partnered with your girl? Yes. His name is Necron. The two of them are hunting Noxious together. Now that's at least something I can respect. I never would have thought that Cecily Aparo would partner with an unlicensed vigilante. Makes me think there's hope for her yet. Do you have faith in Necron to make the right decisions? I have faith in Necron's ability to do what he thinks is right. Which, dare I say it, is a step up from Cecily's MO. I bet he's a good influence on her, keeps her grounded. Oh, Cecily, your face waxes sombre as you think about the past few blinks. Do you think that she can get better? I want to think she can get away from corporate someday. And find herself as she was before she lost her mate Sprit. Do you think that's possible? Cinare's face is sympathetic. I think she could. I like to think she could. I think deep down she knows what's right, and that counts for something. Or at least Cinare, has faith. Maybe she could leave the city. She told me about this farm she found with a group of children. There was one in particular she spoke to who said they traded food in exchange for sovereignty. She said they were committed to non-violence. That's so sweet. I know you think Cecily can't choose to be good. And a lot of times you're right. But I don't think I've ever seen her so proud of someone before. She really loved them, even if they hated what she was. Maybe you could talk her into going back there when she's done with this. I think she would like that. She takes out another cigarette. How the data was stolen. I can think of a couple of ways it could happen, but there's one that's foolproof. Way back in the day, there was a backdoor into corporate's data network that could be accessed through the GPS tech they put in their trailers. There was some bad programming in the account indices that let anyone with a trucker's license make an admin account. Most folks who took advantage of it got rooted out pretty early because they thought it'd be funny to fuck up the schedules with bulge jokes and shit. And some others figured they could cheat the system to assign themselves easy jobs. But I wouldn't be surprised if some people still had access to it. No way corporate walks away from that big of a screw-up without it coming back to bite them. And this is useful data. The kind worth paying for. You wouldn't believe the kinds of particulars you could pull with those credentials. Any truck, any cargo, any time. Sestro could take a shit and mail it and you'd know. Gross. Can you think of anyone suspicious? Perhaps a client who seemed to be too informed? Not off the top of my head. It's been a while since I've seen a lot of my regulars. Well, actually, wait, there's one person. God, what was her name? She crosses her arms and stares off into the distance, trying to remember. Remind me about this when we get back to my shop. I might know of someone you could look into. She looks back to you. Was there anything else, or was that all you needed? You really want to know? I feel like it would just make you sad. Or it would just make me seem like an ass. You don't have to tell me. I just want to understand what you've been through. Sure. Okay, here goes. So when I was pretty young, I would spend a lot of time wandering at nights. I was trying to figure out how far I could stretch my survival ability, so I tried to stay awake for as long as possible. I would pick a direction and then just walk for hours to kill time. Because your survival ability lets you stay awake, right? Right. Well, this one night I had walked farther than I had ever walked before. I was excited, right? My little kid brain was like, what if I find something no one's ever seen before? And I ended up walking all the way to the depths. There was like these mountains of garbage, just massive piles of shit people threw away that had washed back up on shore. It smelled awful, like you wouldn't believe. But just before I turned to book it, I heard someone. I don't know if you've ever heard what someone sounds like when they can't scream anymore, like after they've been yelling for hours. It was like rasping, heaving noises, crying and choking all at once. I followed it down the shore, and there was this guy down there. One of the mountains had shifted, and he got his leg run through by this old metal wiring, and so it was bleeding into the sand, and she takes a breath. There was this other guy just watching him, waiting for him to die. But the guy down there saw me and he pointed at me and kept trying to yell. The other guy must have gotten freaked out or something, because when he saw me too, he jumped up and started digging around in the guy's clothes. He just stole his money and ran away. And the guy kept on trying to scream for me to help him, but I was so scared. And I ran away too. Oh God, cinare. I know, I was so stupid, I didn't know what to do. But as I kept getting older, I kept telling myself that I was never going to become that. I was never going to be like that, you know. I was going to have money, and I was going to be important enough that someone would come for me. So as soon as I was old enough, I applied to work at corporate. And I gave them everything, sweeps of my life. They asked me to do some awful things to people. I didn't even think twice about it. Because I was going to be important enough that someone would come. When I met you, I had just gotten promoted to the big leagues. It was so weird because no one there was any better than the places I'd been before. They were all just people. People who did horrible things, and I was one of them. But you weren't horrible, Shiri, you helped people. One day they told me I was going to have to cut corporate assistants like low priority individuals, and I was like, what the hell does that even mean, low priority? They just meant people like me, people they could afford to replace. I was going to do it. I had the phone in my hand. But I started thinking about that guy who just watched someone die just to take his money. And I couldn't do it. I called my boss back and told him to stick it. But he just passed it on to someone else and they cut it anyway. I swear I screamed for hours when I found out. I started thinking like, why would anyone come for me now? What have I done to deserve being saved? The only thing I could think to do was go to the executive about it. And, well, you know how that turned out. You lean into her. She pulls you closer. You know, for a while I was worried you liked Cecily better than me because she wasn't already fucked. Like that the difference between me and her was that she was still fighting and I already gave up. But you didn't give up. No, you're right, I know that now. It's just hard for me to get out of that headspace. She's so much like I was. For a moment the two of you are silent, but cinare quickly shakes off her funk. Phew! Alright, now that that's over. Ask me something else. Give me another one, Shiri. Oh, is that it? Well, I did want to ask you one other thing. Shoot. Is Cinare serious about leaning? Yeah, I think I am. I mean, not without you, of course, but I think it would be really good for me to get out of here. And you wouldn't be worried about leaving everything behind? Well, that's just it. I don't really have much left here. I could find a bunch of truckers to work with anywhere. The only thing I'd want to stick around for is you. You think about that for a moment. It's strange, the more she talks about it, the more you want to run away with her. Why do you ask? Were you thinking about coming with me? You want to say yes. Your heart tells you to say yes. I'm going to try to talk you into it, ready? If it gets to be too much, just let me know and I'll back off. Okay. She would have died either way. If not then soon after. How can you say that? How can you know? Let me help you understand something, Regulator Yopara. People die, things happen, and it is our job to keep moving forward. Ah, shut up. You think I have never been through withdrawal? You think I have never bonded in 144 sweeps? I still feel that pain, and I have felt that ache every day for longer than you have been alive. Then you know what it means. I know what your mind tells you it is. We are vessels, Regulator. We carry our pain, and it shapes us. We learn from it, just as you should now. Did you not see how she was holding you back? How much stronger you are now that you have something to fight for? Shut up! Shut up! You feel like you are going to be sick. Honestly, yeah, Cecily and Cinare could just beat this guy up, take him off his life support, then run away with their gamer girlfriend. I will never forgive you. Your actions have cost me everything. Frankly, Regulator, I was never asking for your forgiveness. I am asking you to look past the hate and realise that this is what you were made for. What we were made for. Respectfully, sir, if this is what I was made for, I would have preferred to have never been made. I will be submitting my resignation. Find someone else. What are you so afraid of, Yopara? That an old dying man is going to tell you to do something you didn't already want to do? That you are becoming a monster? How many have you killed, Regulator? Where is the line between troll and abomination? They found her in a barrel, sir. There was nothing left for me to bury. And I have shovelled piles of dead away to save what is left of this world. Are you so weak that you refuse to steel your nerve over one woman? This is how you survive the future, Yopara. This is the only way forward. If you leave now, you will destroy any shred of relevance Robiad has left. You don't know what to do. You want to leave. You want to get far, far away from this place. But I have done so much harm, sir. I won't do any more. This world needs you, Cecily. You are the thin line that stands between order and chaos. No! No, I want to leave! There are people who need me here. Oh. There are people who need you out there, Shiri. People who don't have anyone else. With all due respect, sir, there are other regulators. Surely they can handle things. But not with your touch. Not with the same artistry. You are the only one I trust to watch over them. But Cecily needs me here. That can't be an excuse. You can't spend the rest of your life living for someone else. I only lived for her, sir. I cannot continue to serve the same institution that took so much from me. Then build a new one and find something to live for. Sestro will listen. I love you, mshiri, but this is a hard decision. I know this is a hard decision, but I'm going to be with you no matter what you decide. I just want to see you happy. This may be your only chance to save what little is left, Regulator Yopara. The only thing holding you back from redemption is yourself. Okay. I'll leave with you as soon as the case is over. Yes, sir. I will stay, sir. God damn it. She's got a nice outfit. Someday soon you will walk through the trees outside of here like she does. You'll visit the forests and the cities like your ancestors did, and no matter where you end up, you know that this place will be better than here. This cold won't last forever, you're sure of it. There will come a time where the suns are pleasant things again. So you bring her inside as she breaks down, because you're here with her now. Because you won't be here forever. She tells you she needs you. You tell her you know. When the phone rings, you already know who it is. Now might not be the best time, cinare. Shit, sorry, just one thing. Have you ever heard of a gal named Yeshin Levis? You don't have the heart to tell her. Damn. Honestly, cinare and Cecily could just beat up the executive. Yeah. So that was that, I guess. This was a interesting route, like switching perspectives between mshiri and Cecily like that. That was really interesting. But honestly, all cops are bastards, Black Lives Matter, capitalism needs to fall, capitalism is crumbling. The end.